Most of us want to feel better. We don't actually want to see that we're misperceiving things. But that's the core of spirituality. And then the only way to really wake up is to realize that the way you perceive yourself may not be true. And all the little garden variety ways that people suffer, their little anxieties, their depressions, their fears, their guilts, their shames, all of that. That there is simultaneously with a more relative way of working with that, which is there is a time and a place to do that. But there is a more core way of looking at any of those issues. What's the truth? How am I causing my own suffering through my own misperceptions? If suffering does arise through misperceiving, through perceiving things not as they actually are, then exactly how am I perceiving anything that's causing me pain or fear or anything? How am I misperceiving reality? It's very different, isn't it? If you find out, if it corrects itself, the result will be you'll feel a whole lot better. But the motivation is, how am I misperceiving? Of course, in teachings of waking up, in teachings about spiritual awakening and enlightenment, we go to the primary misperception, which is a misperception of self. It's not the only misperception. There's a whole host of other misperceptions about the world, about others, about, just about anything you or I believe in our hot heads is a misperception. That's a shocker when you realize that one. Everything you believe, those things called beliefs that we have and hold very valuable to us, a belief tells you exactly one of the ways in which you're misperceiving. There's no beliefs in reality. Reality doesn't need a belief. Reality is just the way things are. You don't have to believe in the way things are for them to be the way things are. You have to believe that things are not the way they are in order to perceive things other than they actually are. So we are taught also that if we just change what we believe, that's the salvation for us. There are some beliefs that are less destructive than others, certainly. Some beliefs are more in harmony with reality than others. But there's no such thing as one of them that are actually true. And when we really wake up, you can't miss that. When awakening to reality really happens, you can't actually miss. My God, there's no such thing as a true belief. Reality itself is simple, clear, and unitary. There's nothing mysterious about it. The mystery all has to do with misperception. Boy, when we start misperceiving, things are very mysterious. Very murky. Lots of shades of gray, But when we really start to wake up from our misperceptions, we realize reality isn't mysterious. Life isn't a big mystery. It's not really an overly complex thing. Freedom isn't complex. Enlightenment isn't complex. It's actually the opposite. It is the most simple thing. It is the most simple perception, right? So I want to help people not only to see spiritual inquiry, which I talk about, inquiry about what am I, but the viewpoint of inquiry is what's really important. It's really looking at what is true in anything. True about you, true about your perception of another, true about the world, true about God, true about any moment that causes suffering. Once you get the notion, or start to work with the notion, that suffering in any form is caused by a misperception. And a misperception is caused by a belief, an idea that's grabbed, that's believed, a conclusion. Once you get that very, very simple idea, the whole way you look at things starts to shift. Because no longer, when you get uncomfortable, are you asking yourself, how do I feel more comfortable? Although, of course, you want to, everybody does. But you're not necessarily asking yourself, how do I feel more comfortable? You're asking myself, how do I perceive more clearly? What's the truth here? Do you see how radical this actually is? Usually when we suffer, we want to change everything except the way we're perceiving. Right? Right? You change, this change. If the world changes, if that change, And even if we change our perceiving, we want to perceive from one phony belief to another phony belief. But that's not the kind of change of perception I'm talking about. I'm talking about something very similar to what the Buddha was talking about when he said, the cause of suffering is ignorance. It's an innocent misunderstanding about the nature of reality. That's the cause. It has nothing to do with what is happening. It has nothing to do with what happened. And it has nothing to do with what might happen. It has to do with what we tell ourselves and told ourselves about what is happening, what did happen, or what may happen. It's about what we believe about the various events in our lives. And again, for most people, their primary belief is with their own existence. It's like they're born, and as soon as they get language, they form a belief about their birth. I am this little person, which becomes a big person. But as soon as you perceive, not through belief, not through the mind, not through the story, all of a sudden it's simple, it's not so. You and I, we're not limited to a particular person. No individual thing defines who and what we are. We're not actually perceiving from a particular body. But what we are is much more like the consciousness of the totality. The consciousness of existence itself.